Perez slotted in there. And, one of the bright spots is at least Ola Kamara was available to travel, and he got some minutes today. And I'll tell you, I think that was one of the bright spots today was Ola Kamara getting some minutes and finding the back of the net.
Is it?
Look, I made the whole thing, and this is way early in the show to start talking about whether Ola Kamara deserves to play or not, but investing minutes, gosh knows, with all the injuries, we've had the chance to invest minutes in a lot of players early in the season. Some good, some bad from returns from that, but Ola comes on for a very short stint and does what he was brought here to do.
Yeah, he found the back of the net. And that's what we needed to see. We didn't see enough of it last year, but it's good to see. Look, we'll take any sort of goal. I mean, what I saw from DC United throughout this entire game was a much more patient and at times a much more confident side than I think we've seen this season, which was nice to see. They by no means did Columbus dominate this game at all. I think DC United were in it the whole time. They shot themselves in the foot with 2 own goals. Jesus.
In it the whole time.
It's hard to say with a straight face.
Yeah, in it the whole time I think is a stretch. I think for the middle part of the game, so kind of the second part of the first half and the first part of the second half, I think were where we saw our most promising chances and where we had the most build-up and the most you could see.
I thought the first
what
10
we were trying
minutes we were
for.
on fire.
Really?
I thought we came out of the gate flying. We had a lot of chances at the beginning.
Perhaps.
But either way, I mean,
there was definitely
we don't have to debate over when we were good. We were good at points in this game, right? And I think that's the point.
We didn't deserve to lose 3-1. Absolutely.
Agreed.
And
yeah.
I mean, it was super frustrating. I felt like we were really in it, and then the first own goal happened, and I turned around and I said, I think we're out of it. I don't think we can come out. And then we scored one, and you mentioned it. We had kind of 2 sections turning around and trying to chat nonsense at us, and I feel like I was holding us down. I was, chatting back. Everyone was chatting back.
Sam was trying to throw down.
Sam was at the forefront of all of every kind of shit.
And then what? A minute later, we scored against ourselves, and everyone turned around, and I couldn't really say anything because what do you say when you've scored against yourselves twice?
Yeah, it's
super frustrating. And I think it's most frustrating because we were better than that. I don't think I would be as frustrated if Columbus had just straight outplayed us or if it was a 1-1 tie, right? There were a lot of situations in which I feel like I wouldn't be as mad as I am now. But the fact that I felt like this game, more so than any other game, except potentially the home opener, I saw the moments where you could see that the team knew what they were doing. They knew the passes that they were supposed to make, and they knew the runs and the plays that they were supposed to be making. And those were starting to come to something potentially. And then all of a sudden we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot 2 times. And I mentally cannot get past how sad I am that happened.
It's frustrating. But you have to look at the positives in the sense that we still have a starting 11 plus a growing bench of players unavailable right now, right? And when you look at that and you look at the available players for today, I thought we played pretty well. I think I give a lot of credit to Perez's performance today, Sam. I think you feel differently.
I absolutely feel differently.
But I would argue, I mean, he was slotted in a position that is probably not in his top 5 or 6 places on the field.
I tweeted this out. He's a Golden Boot major indoor soccer league winner. The opposite of that is a left wing back in MLS.
It is a tough task for him.
But
today.
if Bill played forward, we wouldn't be like, well, I don't know, that's not his position.
We
you'd
definitely
be mad that he wasn't well.
I would.
I would be
we
mad.
Would. I don't know if you would.
No, I would be mad that he wasn't doing well. Obviously, okay, whatever. Perez is obviously showing something in practice. No, let me finish. He's obviously showing something in practice that means that he can play that position. We had other defensive players on the bench.
Who would you have started?
But it wasn't the intention.
Mike DeShields.
More warmed up.
Yeah.
And was going to start at the left wing back spot, and it was an injury in the warm up.
Okay, but you can't say, we can't blame this forward for not playing well because obviously he has shown better, and Losada saw something that made him think he would do better than someone like Mike DeShields who grew up being a defender, right? So I can be critical then of his play, of the fact that of the situation was the best person who was going to start in that position, and he did not play well.
You can't say.
Also, I'm not critical of his defensive play. I'm critical that he couldn't make a pass to DC United today.
You can't be critical of Perez for showing enough in training that Losada started him, and then not be critical of DeShields for not showing enough to start above Perez at left wing back. Clearly, DeShields is not ready to play there. I thought Perez, for the major indoor soccer league, Golden Boot winner, did a decent job at left wing back. Again, we didn't concede any goals from really the run of play. We conceded
twice on ourselves.
2 own goals and a free kick from Zelaran, who that's occasionally going to happen in the season.
Which I also think, how do we talk about this game? Do we talk about this game as a 3-1 loss, or do we talk about this game as like a 1-1 draw and that we also just happened to score twice against ourselves?
We talk about it as a 3-1 loss because that's.
But
what
it
happened.
wasn't a 3. It is, but it wasn't. They didn't score against us 3 times. There weren't 3 breakout plays that Columbus had that scored against us. I think we were pretty much in the game, and a 1-1 draw would have been very fair, I think, for this matchup.
Oh, this is so fun. I watched the MLS Cup last year, and Columbus came out and just dominated against Seattle. 1-3-0. It was very clear that Columbus was the better prepared team. They knew what they were doing. They were executing better. You couldn't say the same tonight or today, because it's 1:30. But for the kickoff, but I don't think DC United was clearly outmatched and outmanned and outplanned.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I think we have 12. 13, 14, 15 players on the injury list, and that was very, very clear in the back line. When your back line is putting more goals in the net than they're actually conceding, there's problems there, and it's easy to see. We're starting a guy that's like, John says 97, but he's like actually like 33, 34.
I'm never going to live that down, am I?
That's blasphemous slander, at least. And then Alfaro, like, we weren't even sure if he was up to this level. Nahar, I was the main critic of that.
Nahar played pretty well.
He played pretty well today.
They're doing a great job at filling in, right? But I think this result and the other results, the 1 own goal against New England, and even last week, I think with the better back line, those problems get solved. We don't have our defenders they put it above the crossbar instead of under the crossbar. But
that's what I mean is, how do we look at this game? Like, we're a post-game show, right? Like, that was the intention of our show, is that we're super emotional coming into this. So we're really sad about this result. But in a couple days, are we going to say we got one, right? They scored one against us on a free kick that I can't comment on because I was in the restroom, but like, how do we feel about? Do we feel?
I thought you were at the bar for that. I'm glad you cleared that up for us.
No, I cursed in the restroom next to a Columbus Crew woman, and she looked at me and I said, "You guys just scored." Like, she didn't know I heard the chanting though.
We'll get into that one because I want to break down that and the whole Flores thing. But I think I'm going to side with John here. Look, and he tweeted out a spicy tweet about, like, what is Losada Ball doing? I understand. I am so
wasn't quite the tweet, but
no. We are
all over the place.
We are so bought in on Losada Ball and the process that it's going to take to get there. But are we willing to lose week in and week out to get there? Maybe eventually. Like,
no.
That's the question.
So, you're right, but we talked about this on the way up. Is that someone like Philly was bad for years, right? Yeah. And like, even Columbus was not good for a really long time, and now they're playing really well. So you cannot expect to sign a new coach who has a completely different system and just be good that day. Unless in MLS, unless you're signing like a Zlatan level player, and even they weren't good, but he was scoring every single game, right? So it depends upon what you want from your team. Do you want them to play well, or do you just want to spend a lot of money and score and sign one good player? And that's not what DC United's doing.
Well,
so it's going to take a minute to understand the system and be good.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought this up, right? Because I do want to have the chance to kind of address what I was trying to say and apparently not getting my point across very well. I'm definitely bought in on the Losada system, right? Like, DC United were on a path where we needed to change things dramatically. We needed to bring in a new culture. We needed to change the way we do business. And, Losada said it for the past few press conferences that it's not just on the field. It's, all the departments need to make changes to get to where he wants to go. And I'm fully on board with that. The question that I'm teasing out is the bar perhaps a little bit too high today in May of 2021? And that is inhibiting us from getting some points right now that we're going to regret later this season. We don't have. Hold on. Because I think where I'm concerned is some of these players could be available. Ola Kamara might not be able to play 90 minutes, but he probably could have played more than 15. And I wonder how many other players on this roster are in the same same category.
Paul.
I think Paul Arriola is probably
Paul
there.
has
He said himself. Yeah.
No, yeah, so he said himself. Any player is going to say, I want to play all 90 minutes, and I think I'm there.
think he said 90 minutes. I think he just said he'd be
said that
available.
he thought that he could start for the World Cup team, and he had been cut, right? So you can't always trust the player's opinion.
Agreed.
So my point is, if it's going to take 10 games to be really good, and then we play really well for the next 26, right?
Well, that's
Is that
exactly the
acceptable?
question.
Or do we incremental, we get some points from the first 5, and then we get maybe 1 or 2 more from the next 12, and then we get maybe some more. Are we going to incremental the bar, or are we just going to say this is the bar, and if you don't meet it, you're not playing? And I'm almost more okay with that, because also you have to take into account the expectation Losada is setting. And he is setting the expectation that this season, all he wants is for this team to learn his system. He's not saying that we're going to make the playoffs. He's not saying that we're going to be in any type of races. He's saying, I want the team to make this system. I want every single player to be able to meet my bar. And then next season, when everyone has already met my bar, that's when you're going to see us fly.
Yeah.
And that is what we can expect from this team. And I'm super okay with that.
That's what we hope, right? I don't want to cut you off, but we're losing games every week now.
We are 4 games in.
And we've lost the last 3.
Okay, but we're 4 games in. We're not 12 games in, and we haven't won
Right,
any.
but so everyone goes to the Seattle second half season, and when this argument comes up,
yes.
when do you need to be good in the second half of the season? But Seattle, when they're bad, and people are like, oh, is it going to go bad? They're on the playoff line when that happens. Right. And then they sign a player, and then they win the cup,
But we
right?
scored twice against ourselves
They're
today.
not-
We were not outplayed the way we were these past 2 games.
They're not 3 points through 4 games bad.
I
understand. Look, I believe in Losada ball. I think it will get good. I think there is some compromise that's maybe not getting made. You could Benny ball a little of these games and maybe get a point and maybe not score on yourself twice in a game.
don't think champions compromise.
I can tell you right now, we're not going to be champions this season.
No, but maybe next season or the season after. I don't think
Probably
champions
not,
compromise.
but
And I
maybe.
think you come in with a champion mindset. You
Who?
don't come in and you say, oh, it's fine that we got a point away. It's okay. No, that's not Losada's
But
plan.
my problem is we're not really playing Losada ball right now.
We are. We did today more so.
I don't think we did today.
I absolutely think we played better today than we did the
I
past
think the
2
last
games.
3 games
better
have not
is
been the
different
first
than
game.
playing what the style he wants to play.
You're
I don't
right,
think
but
we're seeing the
I
style
don't
he
think we
wants to
can
play.
expect to see the style that he wants to play this early,
Well,
though.
that's what we're saying.
That's
is that-
the point.
Right, we're not seeing the style, so we might as well.
So let's
play.
let's earn a point or 2.
Yeah.
But would you rather learn a point or 2 and then it takes longer to learn the style because he's adjusting to the players, or would you rather it take
You just had said
maybe
that
a
he's
couple
already
games longer?
adjusting to the players. We're not playing Losada ball.
No, you guys just said he's not adjusting to the players. That's the whole point, is he's not playing the players who aren't meeting his bar. You just said that.
No.
It is going to take this team, especially the players that are out, because we have so many injuries. It's going to take them a long time to learn this style. Whether
I'm
they're
fine
good
with
at it
that.
today or they're good at it later.
But that's the
I'm fine
argument.
with that too.
You're
So
not-
let's win today.
No, but
playing
you
the
can't
style
win
we
today.
can play.
No, but
and
that's
then
what
let's
he's
learn when
trying
everybody's
for.
healthy.
No, but that's what he's trying
I don't
for.
think he
They're
is.
playing. What do you think he's doing then?
I don't know what he's doing
just
right
shipping games. No, he's saying this is
We-
the style
he
that
is
I want to
shipping
play.
games.
He's absolutely shipping games right now.
No, he's saying this is the style that I want to play, and potentially these are not the players who can get there. And John, I think you were the one. I think Jason Anderson asked a question, and he said, "Thank you for asking me about the game and not the injuries." Right? Is that what you saw on Twitter?
Yes,
I don't wanna
that was part of the
completely-
press conference today. Yeah.
Okay, which we will have at the end of the podcast. So anyone who's
Right.
listening live, we really appreciate it. Obviously, we were at the game. It took us a minute to get back to the house. So if you listen to the podcast, which we'll post right after, the post-game press conference will be fit in right at the end, and we're anxious to listen along too. But also, I have noticed from Losada that he's super tired of answering questions about expectations. He is done talking about it. He wants to talk about the football that's happening, and he's not.
Does he?
Well, who was it? Felipe?
Does
who
he?
said,
Because this team has conceded 7 and scored 2 in the last 2 games.
How many did we score against ourselves, though? You can't really plan for
worse
that.
to me. Like I don't.
Okay,
think,
but that's not Losada's plan, obviously. That's like Briant not being good
but
enough to play. Do you think Briant
but
is
it's
playing
real.
if Birnbaum is healthy and
Maybe.
Donovan Pines is healthy?
I think Briant was
Absolutely
destined to be
not.
a starter on this team this year.
I think it was
I think the drafting of the
Birnbaum,
Shield secured
Pines,
that.
and Heinz Ike.
And potentially that's where we want to go. But, I mean, Briant's been one of our best defenders the past couple of years. I think it's his job
He
to
scored
lose.
twice against us today.
Sam, I understand you're making that point, but who are you going to put on for him right now?
No, you can't.
So
he
right
has
now-
to start. He has to start until 3 people come back from injury.
Correct.
And that's look, it's a nightmare. I don't envy Losada, and that should be addressed. Look, again, we support his style. We're bought in on the system, but
it doesn't sound like you are. What is your solution then? Maybe I'm asking the wrong question. What is your solution?
I maybe play a little bit more defensive and don't
so
press
you learn
high
a little
with the
bit of a
wingers.
defensive play, and then when everyone's healthy, you learn a completely different type of play midway through the season.
Right.
I mean,
Most of these players have played soccer their whole life. It's not going to be that.
It's not like the starters are even learning the system right now. They're out injured. They're not training.
You don't think that they're learning and watching tape?
Steve
and learning how
Bermond's
to
sitting
move
at his
their
house in
bodies?
Northwest right now. He's not learning
Okay, what
anything.
he's posting on Instagram is not what he's doing for his job. That's ridiculous.
He's not in training.
He is though. You don't think he's with the team and watching?
He's
tapes
not getting
and talking?
game minutes. That's for sure.
Obviously, he's injured.
And so, at what point does he get game minutes? Halfway through the season, or like you have
That has nothing to do with the style of play, though. That has to do with his physical body injury.
So, every player has a physical body injury now.
I would say we're off the rails, but I don't even think we're near the rails at this point. Like the train is in flames. We're so far from.
So
what
today we
we
don't have show notes, and you can absolutely
look. I think it's a reasonable conversation.
No, it is.
The injury list and where this team is going right now. Like how many
What
losses?
do you expect to be happening right now?
How many losses in a row until you say something needs to change?
What do you expect to be happening?
I can answer that, and that's what I tried to
Doing
say
the best you
yesterday.
can.
Let John answer.
I think right now we need to lower the fitness bar a little bit, and we need to have a couple more players available. You can play the same system. You can play Losada ball.
Why is that different than what Chad Ashton was doing, though? Why even
Chad
bring in
Ashton
Losada?
was successful at the end of the season last year.
Okay,
right?
so why bring in
with that.
Losada?
Because Losada's long-term vision is where we need to go, and I've
So
said
how do you
that
get
all
there?
along.
So how do you get there?
You get there by implementing the system, but all I'm asking for is to lower the fitness bar a little bit so that we can have
So why
a
not
full
just keep
squad
it low
available.
so everyone can play all the time?
Because you're not going to get there. I'm saying the players that are healthy today under most coaches' systems should be available and should get minutes because they're better than a lot of the players we
most
saw
coaches
today.
don't win MLS Cup, right? And if that's
Losada's-
our goal,
I mean, Sam, you're not really saying a whole lot right now. You're just countering everything I say with asking me why not to do it. What do you want to see us do, and when will we be good at it?
I want to see us all calm the heck down because it's been 4 games.
How many losses in a row do you have to take until you change something?
It's the beginning of the season. How many losses?
You're okay with losing every game this season.
No, you just put words in my mouth.
But so at one point you have to compromise. You have to say we can't play like this anymore. We have to be defensive, or we have to let Paul Arriola play for 60 minutes and then sub him off. Like at some point you
get 5 subs.
I think that Losada was hired for a reason, and I think that he is here to implement a vision that DC United has for the future. And if that's not happening
Totally agreed.
currently, I'm okay with that. Because if we are going to not be good this season and then be in MLS Cup contention for the next 4 seasons, I'd prefer
everyone
for
would
that
sign
to
that line,
happen.
but that's a hypothetical. What we're
No,
dealing,
but
what's
that's
real
what
is
we're working for right now.
But what's real? That's a hypothetical. What's
we're working
real
for the
is
hypothetical.
3 losses in the last 3
So
games.
is that what you're arguing? Is that we shouldn't be working for the hypothetical, the long-term vision? We should be working for wins right now. Is what you're saying right now?
I think it's
I
a
wanna do
balance.
both.
It's a balance.
You can't do both.
Sure you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you absolutely can do both.
We absolutely could have taken a point in New England. Should have taken a point in New England. And we should have taken a point today. We scored on ourselves twice,
Okay,
as
but
you've pointed out a few times.
obviously, Losada's play is not to score twice on ourselves, right? That has nothing to do with Losada ball. That has to do with Briant putting the ball in the back of
And
the net.
as I said today, I thought the side we had available played pretty well.
They did.
I think if you gave Ola Kamara more than garbage time minutes and you allowed a couple of the other players that are healthy the chance to play instead of calling them injured still, we probably would have at least drawn, if not come out on top.
I'm about to
also
call
not-
Yamil Assad
that's
injured.
not
The way he's playing
specific-
and contributing to the team.
Yeah, I'd rather have someone actually hurt out there than Yamil at this point.
I think that's a bad take. I think that's also not new
Why is
to
that a
DC
bad take?
United.
Why?
I
Yamil is
don't.
terrible
I think
today.
he did fine today.
He was
His goals added
probably
are
the worst
0.
player on the field other than Fred
All
scoring
right, you guys
twice.
talk about the game. 'Cause
We can disagree with you. Like, come on now. Yamil Assad has not added anything to this team this year.
I think he's back in the doghouse, by the way.
I think the doghouse is about to be a dog hotel. Like, there's going to be multiple rooms.
The doghouse just is out of field.
Like, I think, yeah, maybe. So maybe those players aren't fit. The 12 or whatever that we have on the list are incapable of playing any kind of minutes. but that seems absurd to me. I think any of them could do anything.
Not a call, but a couple folks in the chat, and I
did you get it up?
It took me a minute, but I did get the chat up. We had a couple folks saying Yamil was awful, which I agree with. One of the questions here, though, is I wonder if Yamil's one of the guys struggling with fitness. His passing has really been off, which raises a really important point to me, because if that's true, why the F is he playing then?
Right.
When everybody else is not fit enough, and yet somehow Yamil gets out there. That's an important point.
You guys talked about, oh man, you guys.
I have a problem with this
constant theme on this show is that Gressel gets trashed because I love Gressel, and these guys know it.
We didn't say that. Today.
And so, like my argument back is that the contributing cast is bad. Yamil Assad is also a former Atlanta player that looked good with Atlanta, and he even looked good with Lucho,
with United round one,
and Wayne. Right,
yeah.
He looked really good with them. Is that a thing with this team? Did we sign a bunch of supporting cast players thinking that they were good because they had numbers, and then they came here and they're bad? I mean, you could say that about Ola. You could say that about Assad. You could say that about Gressel. Maybe even Flores, like in Liga MX. Like, those guys were overachievers at their other clubs.
I definitely think we've signed a lot of supporting cast players. I'm waiting for us to sign some stars.
Oh, man. Let's go. Let's transition. Zelarion, it was a pleasure to watch him play. I wanted to beat Columbus. I don't like Columbus. I don't like the state of Ohio. I'm sitting in it right now.
He says this while we're there.
Yeah. I think the difference between Zelarion and Flores has to be talked about. They're both players from Liga MX. $7 million for Zelarion, $5 million for Flores. Which one would? No one at this table. No one listening.
I looked at you, right? As soon as he stepped up and scored that, I said, "That's the difference between our number 10 and their number 10." And like 20
Flores
minutes later, we
kick,
saw it,
yeah.
and Flores put it to Cincinnati. Like, it just, oh man, I'm out of runway for Flores. I don't know what he needs to be successful. And if I don't know it as a podcaster, I'm not convinced the coaching staff knows it either, because we've tried a number of different systems with him, and it just. Now, I will say today was particularly tough for him. He was, at one point, I think he was up top as a lone striker, and then it seemed like they were trying to do two. It was a little bit hard to kind of see what was going on. He had some good touches today. He had some. He's
a good dribbler.
And it's. Oh man, you can tell he's got talent. I don't know how to unlock it. And it's frustrating because he costs so much money.
It's not in the back of the net, right? And yeah, we talked about this last game, or maybe it was a new game. Like, if he wasn't carrying that $5 million price tag, like, would we be so hard? I think he's been better than Yamil, but we signed Yamil on a free. So, like, they're both taking spots in the 11.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I actually think that's probably why I give Gressel the extra shtick, is because he also costs a lot of money.
He cost a chunk of gam, yeah.
He did, and I think that, you know, if you look at DC United where all players equal, yeah, Gressel probably is one of the better ones. But I don't do that, because they all cost different amounts of money, and they all have different expectations based on their experience and their history. And I think that's why I'm struggling with Gressel personally, because we saw a couple times I looked at him like, that's a great ball in. He can do it.
And there were some bad balls in, too.
And there are some bad balls in, too. And there's other times where, you know, it just... We've talked about this before. He's not a guy that can carry the team, and we're learning that. He didn't have to do it in Atlanta. I don't know that he had to do it at Providence. Somebody has to do it here. It might not have to be him. Somebody's got to do it, and I don't know who that person is.
And look, I'll give some back to Sam, because we kind of, you know, like, told her that she needs a compromise. But maybe that is what Losada brings this season, is that he takes the team of supporting cast and makes the team the star, right? That's the thing that can happen. It happened with Colorado in 2017. They were second place in the Supporter Shield. You can't name someone off the squad, Jermaine Jones, but he was like old. That could happen in DC, and Losada could bring it, right?
I think that we are experiencing PTSD from last season.
This is the growing pains?
I think that if we were mid-table, decent in playoff last season, and then we signed a new coach because we wanted to be the next level and it was taking a little bit more time, that everybody in the DC United community would be more willing to give Losada that time. But because we won like a game last season, the fact that we've only won 1 in 4 this season is making everyone really frustrated. I think that everyone just wants to see 3 points on the board, and I fully understand that. But I am a little bit more willing to wait, because I understand that if the system, you're right, it's very hypothetical that the system he wants to implement works. But if it does, I think we will be back to like DC United of old, rocking and rolling, absolutely contending for everything in MLS, and I'm willing to wait for that.
It's the dream.
Yeah, and that's an important
but I
point
see
to
it.
make.
There's the light at the end of the tunnel now. There wasn't before, right? But now
I
there's
think
the
you're
light
right.
at the end of the tunnel. And I get that we're still in the tunnel and everyone's really frustrated that we're still in the tunnel, but we're closer to the end than we've ever been.
Well, and I think you and Michael both said it after the home opener, and probably the worst thing that could have happened to this team was winning that home opener, and the hype train just took off, you know. And I think
We also haven't been at home since.
well, and I was gonna go there too. I mean, I think I want to at least make my stance very clear. I am still bought in on what Losada was brought here to do. I think if there's any rumblings anywhere about making a change at any point this season, we need to talk because
you need
have
a doctor
to give him time. Yeah, shout out to James Graham, but that is absolutely not what I am saying, and I don't believe you're saying that, Joshua, and we know you're not saying that, Sam. We all need to buy in, and we are bought in. The only point I was trying to make is I think we could probably get a few more points along the way. But, yes, it's going to take time. And as I was reminded by our friends on the Filibuster podcast yesterday, too, Losada hasn't had a chance to even make a signing of his own yet. And neither has Lucy Rushton, who just came in and is going to make a big difference for this team as well. So there are still a lot of things going in the right direction. I do not want to get us on that path at all.
I felt like that's where we're going.
I think we can. This season different than last season. I can say that I think we're on the right path, while also potentially underperforming at the moment. I think you can say both.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And that's where I was going with like the Losada could turn this into the team as a star, but he could also turn this into a supporting cast and then find the guy, right? Find the Zelarion.
Lucy can find the guy.
Find the Zelarion. Right, because that's what they did for Columbus. They have Jossie Zardes and Nagby. Those are good players in MLS, but like,
dude, they got Bradley Wright Phillips subbing off. Like they got a lot of talent on that team.
That's because they won the cup and now people are seeking trophies. But
there was a giant trophy at that stadium.
You could also say the same thing for DC United if they make one signing. If they could get a number 10, like a good
We've
Zelarion,
been lacking that for like 15 years.
I think if they find it, suddenly the supporting cast has something to play to, and it becomes dangerous for other teams.
I'm interested to see if Ola Kamara has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder coming back. I mean, I don't think he would look at last season and been like, yeah, I did okay. Like, I would suspect as a professional athlete who's had some great seasons in the past, he wasn't thrilled either with his season last year. And I'm interested to see how he does coming back over the next couple games. And Sam, you mentioned it. You know, we've now played 4 games this season. 3 were on the road. None of those road games were easy. New England's a pretty good team. Columbus won MLS Cup, and San Jose's a bajillion miles away. We now have 3 consecutive home games coming up, which is awesome. It's huge in this league. And if you wanted to, if there's a chance to give a player who's on the cusp of fitness, wherever we all disagree that level is, not having to get on a plane for X number of hours is a great way to help artificially kind of lower that bar. And maybe some of these guys get a chance over these next couple games.
I think that this game, more than the last 2, you saw the plays that the players were trying to run. You saw the passes that they were trying to implement, and the final pass wasn't there, or players were taking one more touch than they should have before switching the ball or making that pass through. And that is frustrating. Again, as Joshua, I don't remember if you said that on the pod or it was in the game, but you pointed out like our vantage point.
We all spend too much time together.
Yeah. But up above, you could see the tactics a lot easier than from the half line, right? Obviously, or from the end line. Obviously, that's the preferred in the supporter section. But you could see the tactics a lot more, and you could see that it was just one pass off or just one touch off. And that to me is building, right? Last game, it was super late. We were all really sad, but it was frustrating because you didn't see the progression. It felt like we had regressed a little bit from the first game. But this game was the first game. I think you saw us take a little bit of a step forward, and we were just not there. And I think that is momentum going forward, in which when I said at the beginning of the pod, that was why I was saying, do we look at this as a 3-1 game, which it actually was, or do we look at this as a 1-1 if you take away the own goals? I understand that you can't take away the own goals. Those are absolutely unacceptable. They cannot continue to happen.
It's been a lot of them this season.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's ridiculous, and I'm super mad about it. But objectively, if you take away those mistakes, as a team, I think we were playing better this game than we did in the past 2 games against San Jose and New England.
We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. You've heard our take. You've heard it aggressively, assertively, loudly. And I think we're coming to a consensus. But we want to hear your take, and you can join the show, as always, by hitting us up in the chat. We've got a lot of folks jumping in there, and I want to read a comment in a second, just so you all know the chat is not biased. I will read the person who disagrees with me in just a second. But you can also join the show by texting us or by calling us at 540-986-4833. That's 540-9-UNITED. That's a new number this year, so if you're like, that's not the number I've called before, it's not. We got a new
I don't know if anyone's saved our number except maybe Dave Johnson.
Hey, look, if you had to have one.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can one call in prison. Come on, call in prison. So someone on YouTube, JRag, said with 14 players out and a brand new coach 4 games into the season, I would say we are not underperforming or even close to it.
J-Rad, my man! Thank you.
No, and I appreciate the take. I look, I disagree slightly. I think I think we should have had at least 1 point more
I think
out
that's
of
what,
this in New England.
I think
Okay, so 1 point you're going to like disrupt the entire Losada era.
I think what me and John's frustration is that we were in every single game.
Yes.
That we were in the New England own goal. It keeps us from having a point, and it comes off the bar after that. And then San Jose, if you look at the stats, they were super lucky to score 4.
Fred got beat by a 17-year-old phenom.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Hats
off
that kid's
to
good.
him, honestly. Yeah. No, this entire system is not about not conceding goals, though. It's not about defensively preventing goals from being scored. It's just about scoring more than you get scored upon. And that's just not there yet, which we just touched upon. But that's the point, right? Losada never said that we were always going to win 1-0. He said we were going to win 5-4. And that is a big difference in what you're promising the fans. And it takes more time to get to the scoring than it takes to get to the defending.
And we have a lot of talent not available right now.
Exactly.
I think that's huge.
I can complain about it, but it's also a reality.
Can we just like touch on it? We talked about this off air a lot yesterday on the drive up to Columbus, but half of the 14-ish now, it feels like, players are long-term injuries or reoccurring injuries, right? I think that people are starting to get frustrated with Losada's system, and they're starting to say, his bar's too high, he's pushing the players too much, he's injuring the players. But I think
you should at me when you say that.
So John said yesterday
at
12:30. But most of our injuries are from last season, or they're longer term things.
I don't know that we agreed that most were from last season.
At least half.
We agreed
at
that
least half.
It's approximately half.
And some of the newer ones are longer term things that were re-aggravated. We also agreed upon.
I'll give you that too.
So we cannot blame Losada for having a high bar in that, right? That's just people coming back in. And I also don't think at Joshua L. Morgan that we can say that the players who are injured are just chilling at home right now. I'm super sure
that was a hell of a shout.
I'm super sure that they are looking at.
Losada said, "I appreciate the players who haven't missed training," and to me, that means a lot. Losada, he said it in his pregame for this game.
I don't think that anybody who thinks that they're playing for DC United next year at Birnbaum, because he's played here his entire career, and I'm sure that he's trying to stay here. I'm sure that they are looking at clips. I'm sure that they are talking to him, and they're learning the thing. It's not your fault if you're injured and you can't physically be on the field, but I'm sure that they're learning the system, because Losada knows he can't just teach the 12 people who are healthy now, and then when the rest of them come back, he's just going to be like, okay, now's I start.
Apparently, a lot of them were taking days off because they were not ready for Losada ball. They're still not.
You don't know that he's adding Birnbaum in that, though.
I'm just saying,
Steven, I believe
there's a lot of players that I believe in Birnbaum too. But look, I love him. Been around
forever.
Gosh. Yeah, but look, man, some players are showing up right now. And Losada said after this game, he said before the game, I appreciate the players that have not missed sessions, and after the game, he said I appreciate the guys that have shown well in these games with all the injuries.
So I think that goes back to what John said, in that Losada's not been able to sign anyone yet. Lucy's not been able to sign anyone. This is not Losada's team. this is the Olsen era team that Losada is molding to his. So let's maybe wait for the summer window. Let's maybe wait until the winter window and into next season. Let's see the type of guys that he wants to bring in. Let's see the type of guys he's trying to ship out. How is it fair, though? I don't think it's fair across the entire world to bring in any type of coach and say, do what you want to do with these players who might not buy in.
So I'll bite on that. I think the difference, particularly, I mean, the three of us are pretty big English soccer fans too, right? The difference here is that the expectation of any club, any season should be to make the playoffs. No one should go into the season and be like, we're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. Most teams make the playoffs.
I don't think that's realistic.
I don't buy in on the fact that like Losada's like, we're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. I'm not okay with that.
You thought we would make the playoffs last year.
We were 15 minutes away from making the playoffs
right.
last year.
And
so I don't think
what's
you can
the
make
difference
fun of
now?
me for that.
What's the difference now? Why can't this same team, make the playoffs with
In
a better
theory-
coach?
I'm not saying
we
they
have a better
can't.
coach.
I'm not saying they can't.
But you're okay if we don't now.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say I'm okay if we don't. I'm saying that Losada is setting the expectation that we don't. So I think that we can give him a little more time. As we get towards the end of the season, if we're still not winning games, then yes, I will be very critical of it. But at the beginning of the season, he didn't say that we were going to be coming out and winning points right now. He's saying that it's going to take a lot of time, potentially an entire season. So I'm willing to give him at least a half a season, because you don't need the first half of the season to be good in MLS. So I'm saying give you the time to do that.
You need the first half of the season to be decent in MLS, and we're not.
You don't, though. Are you kidding me?
I just said Seattle, when they're decent and then they make the playoffs, they're at the playoff line. We're at this pace.
You can also be LAFC and own the whole season and then flare out in the playoffs, right? Like, which do you prefer?
We're neither of those right now. Right now,
Either.
we're losing all the games.
You're right. All the games is 3 games. We're talking about 4 games right now, not 15.
Yeah.
Like, I think you guys are overreacting
right.
to the position that we're in right now.
And Neil from YouTube agrees with you, Sam. Give Losada time. I don't think we need to make the playoffs to call this season a success.
Neil and Jay, whoever from
yeah,
before.
well, J Rag
y'all-
just said the same
yeah.
thing. We don't. The season does not require playoffs to be considered successful. Guys, I appreciate you. I agree. Look, Losada,
I agree
no
with
matter
you.
what happens this season, I'm bringing Losada back next year. If we
I mean,
don't
he's on
make
a 3-year
playoffs,
deal.
I won't be happy.
I'm
not saying I'll be happy either.
I'm just saying the playoffs not being the expectation was what Olsen had for 10 years, and look what that got.
I'm saying that you can't look at the first 4 games and expect anything.
Do not talk bad about the Open Cup. I will let you on the air.
I'm just saying, at some point, expectation needs to be.
Absolutely. I'm saying if you listen to anyone in MLS, they say that you can't take a lot from the first 4 games. You can't take a lot from the first season. You have to kind of watch the beginning part of the season, and then you see what teams are trying to do. And we're trying to do a completely different thing. So I think that timeline is extended a little bit for DC United. We're not bringing a coach back and trying to work one signing into the play and saying what can they do for this team and how can they be different, right? MLS is bat bleep crazy, and everything happens in this league, and you have to give it time to work itself out.
I'm just saying that there's no guarantee that it will work out. How long?
Absolutely. You're 100% right, but I don't think we need to be.
How many seasons? If you're talking seasons.
I'm talking this season. Let's see what happens by the end of this season.
What's
because
successful for you?
That's what Hernan Losada said.
What's success for you there?
Personally, I expect to make playoffs, right? I think that's the standard in MLS. I think that when you listen to the head coach, who's the one who's doing the actual job that we're talking about right now, he has said success is implementing the system, and we've already seen moments of implementing the system. I think that in 4 games, it's unrealistic across the entire world. Any team, any league you want to talk about, a new coach comes in, they're not going to be able to do it in 4 games. The complete shift in that we're talking about with DC United. We're talking about Benny Ball bunkering, playing like breakaway, send a ball over the top and hope someone gets a shot on goal, to Losada, high press, everyone's forward, we're creating a bunch of chances. That is a completely different way of playing. And in the first 4 games, for you to say that it's unacceptable, that that's not coming off, I think is a little bit absurd.
I don't know that we said that.
You guys are really mad at him right now.
I'm not really mad at him.
Really mad at him at all.
I would like to see some flexibility, some sort of.
Why champions are inflexible?
We're not going to win anything.
We're not champions.
We're not going to be champions. We don't have to worry about that.
When do you want to be a champion, though?
Look, I want him to be quote unquote flexible in terms of allowing our best players to play a chunk of minutes when they're
like
not at 100%, because the players that we saw today
I don't think
at
so.
100%
I don't think
are
so.
not as good as some of the
I
players.
don't think
that
so.
are
I think this is
you
your
don't
standard.
have to agree
and
with
if
me.
you
I'm
don't
telling
meet
you
it,
that's my position.
I'm saying that Hernan's position, which is the one that matters, is that if you're not at this level,
well,
then you're not playing.
But
Bottom
Hernan
line-
doesn't get to define success
Or-
either.
or-
You
he
get-
actively does. That's his job.
Well,
No,
he
it's
didn't
not.
because he did not succeed today, and that's what's bothering me is that.
But why does
how
today
many
matter in the grand scheme of things?
Well,
game
it's not
matters.
just today; it's last week and the week before, and then we got lucky the week before that. So
But
like,
we got unlucky today, so it's unfair for you to say that those were just two lucky
It seems
goals
like-
and not say that these were just
Sam
two
is
unlucky
unwilling to
goals
let a
this
thought
season.
be finished on today's show.
I think
I'm
we
sorry,
have
you're
to consider that. Look, it is a possibility that Hernan Losada will not be successful at DC United,
Absolutely.
and so at some point we have to hold him accountable to that.
Absolutely.
I think 3 losses in a row is bad in MLS, regardless of
Bad in
anything.
any league.
I think you should be looking to make some sort of change tactically or personnel wise after 3 losses in a row, and I look forward to seeing
disagree.
what he does after that.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think I'm fine with keeping the system.
I,
I've always been
Josh
fine
was
with
not.
keeping the system.
I'm all about the system. I
You
love.
just said we needed to change it.
We need to change
Make a
something
change
right
of
now.
Something. I told you what that is. You guys, at least Sam, you don't agree with me in lowering the fitness bar. So are you?
That's changing the system, though. That
It's
is
not.
fundamentally changing
not.
the system. Yes, because his system demands that high of fitness.
but then
no
you-
one is that fitness. Well, I haven't seen this system be successful yet.
Okay.
So we're not doing it anyway. So let's lower the bar and
No,
get our
but
better
we're
players
getting
out
there. That's the point. Is his system fundamentally demands that level of fitness. So if you're saying that we're lowering that fitness, you're saying that we're fundamentally changing the way that he wants to play. And I don't think that he's willing to do that, and I'm fine with it.
Well, the reality is we're stuck with it because we don't get to coach the team. I think it will be successful at some point, but
I
next
hope
few
so.
weeks, yeah, I hope so too. The next couple weeks could be ugly though, and that's what I fear. Let's look ahead to DC United's next games because they do have 3 home games in a row, which we're all going to, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be back at Audi Field because it does make a difference playing at home. And these teams that we're going to see, at least the first 2 teams, are not as good as the teams we've been playing lately. We have Chicago this week. That's Thursday night at home, followed up quickly on Sunday by Orlando City at home. And then we wait a week and we see Philly. And Philly, oh man, that's probably not going to be a fun game.
We'll see how
But I
these
think
two
there's
games
points
go.
available.
I think there's a lot to be said for being at home and having that atmosphere and not having to travel. And that's like a month away from right now, right? It's 3 weeks away. So
Well,
I think a lot can happen in that time.
Those 3 games are in 2 weeks, so all those games will be done in 8 days, and so DC United's depleted bench will be pretty. 8 days for the Orlando.
8 days for the first 2 games.
And no, but I was talking about the third one against Philly.
Yeah. So like
Well, that's
15
that's
days.
2 weeks. Yeah, 15 days.
so a little over 2 weeks, 3 games, and a stretch DC United bench. Like really, guys, you should start running now. You might get an emergency call up.
Okay,
for DC United.
think ahead until October though, right? Because then there's the international break, and then we have a lot of time for people to really rest and for them to be back and come back and start to be implemented in the system, and I guess to start learning more than you can when you're injured, because that's not an acceptable standard. So in October, if we don't do well in this stretch, but we come out after the international break and we're doing better, do we think that Losada Ball's a failure?
I mean, again, I don't think Losada Ball's a failure today.
No, I don't. Look, again, I do not think Losada Ball is a failure. I don't think Losada is failing right now. But
What are you
how
saying
long?
then?
How long into the season? How long did the former Atlanta coach that now coaches the Netherlands? Like, how long was he given? A year and a half, right? How long can you fail?
I mean, Ben
before-
had 10 years.
Are we staying? Are we going to do that to ourselves
No,
again?
But I think that when you have a coach that says, this is where the team was and this is where I expect them to be, and that might take a year, why are we unwilling to give that to him? Because we're Americans and we need the instant gratification?
No, I think a coach that's not from this league coming in, that's a tough job. I think that has to be factored into it too.
Absolutely, but if you give him, if he says this is the bar, I'm giving it a year. If in a year that we're not playing to where we can be MLS Cup contenders, I think that that's when we can start.
That's next season.
Okay.
So man, that's about a year and a half leash, right? So you're going to give him a year and a half, and we'll see. But I hope it doesn't get to that point. I hope we figure it out. I'm just saying it's on my radar now. Now, the team is not performing the way I would like it to perform. And I understand the injuries. I think Ben probably could have gotten a result out of these last 3 games.
Wow.
I think
100%. Yeah,
I think
we've got at least another point, if not 2.
And look, that's a hot take. And you can
now, what I'll say to that though,
apparently
is,
on tried and true.
No, not that. I at the end of the season, Ben probably has fewer points than what Hernan might have. But at this point, right now, I think Ben has more.
So
points
what's
than Hernan.
best? Because you guys apparently just want to get the points right now, and it doesn't matter long
As
term.
I've said a few times today, I want to do both. I want to win now, and I want to win later.
You cannot do both, though.
You can.
Apparently,
You absolutely can. You can lower the fitness bar, and you cannot make every player be at peak 100%, so you're not starting the Loudon team in games that you could be winning. That's my problem.
Okay.
It's tough.
He's in an impossible spot, as you said,
Yes.
Joshua. But
Apparently not, though, because you're demanding more of him. So it's not impossible. You just want something different.
No, but I think that's what I was trying to say earlier. But I think we've seen enough that he deserves something from these last 3 games.
Yes.
Right? And so, like, they're just, like, that far off. And that's
but
what kills
I'd rather
you,
be
right?
that far. This is, like, the difference in the EPL, though, between being that far off and playing for ties and playing for wins. Because Leeds United has, like, less wins, but they're further in the table. Right? Like, if we're that far off and we're getting the losses now, but we're going to get the wins in the long term, I'd rather that than getting the points now and just getting 1 point down the road. Statistically, it's better to go for wins than draws. It's statistically better to learn the system and figure it out.
I don't know that that's true, but
Okay.
It's tough, guys. It's really tough. You don't ever want to see your team in a 3-game losing streak.
I don't think it's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what's happening.
You're right.
And that is tough. And we can make exceptions for it. I feel like I've been making exceptions for the past 10 years, and that's what's tough. And you mentioned that a little bit, Sam. Like, if maybe we finish it a little bit differently, but that's not when a new coach comes in, right? And it's really terrible that a new coach comes in after a decade of like stagnant finishes in the table, basically no playoff wins, and then we have an injury crisis like we're having right now, and then you lose 3 straight, and that's not good. I want something to change for DC United because I think DC United deserve more than they're getting right now. I think the team deserves more than they're getting right now, and that's frustrating, right?
I think we can't judge Hernan by Ben Olsen's flaws.
I think we don't know what Hernan's flaws are right now, and we're going to learn those.
well, I think we know one of them.
He's pushing the players hard.
I don't think that's a.
That might-
I don't think
that
that's
might
a
be a
long-term
flaw.
flaw. I don't think that's a long-term flaw. I don't think we can say it consistently now. I think that
Final
if
foul.
for the past 10 years we've been getting 1 or 2 rounds into playoffs and then fizzling out, and we are where we are with Hernan right now, you all are less critical. And a lot of the DC United fan base is less critical. I think you have to look at it as a clean slate, and you have to give him a shot to figure it out, because he also is trying to implement a system that's very different just in MLS. He's trying to do something in MLS. You need a couple good DPs, right? You just need players to build around. And we talked about that. We talked about, are we just signing a supporting cast, and are they not good enough? I think in MLS, that's potentially not good enough historically, but is Hernan trying to implement a system that will all get them there, and then the entire team can push forward as a unit and be good enough in this league? And we're going to figure it out, or he's not going to figure it out. But 4 games in, it's too early to tell.
As I've said before, I think we're underperforming now. I think we're still on course to be successful throughout the Losada era. I think you can have both.
I'm worried. I want to be better than just Chicago and Cincy, and right now we're not, and that's tough. And look, the bench is, the injury list is long, but not deep in talent, and that's what worries me.
So let me ask this: what do you guys do next week? We got a Thursday game. There's not a whole lot of time to recover. Who do you start?
I think that depends. When Losada was asked in the preseason or in the pregame presser who is good, he said anyone could be good. It's going to take a couple of days. We take it day by day. So
Right. So who do you start?
So I think it depends on who's back.
If you could
we
change
don't know.
anything to, I mean, hopefully more.
Obviously, you bring everyone back and you start the starting lineup, right?
We know what players are actually injured, and we know what players are being held out because they're not fit. So,
but maybe they get fit in this week. Maybe it was the travel. Maybe it's if they don't travel.
I want to see Paul Ariel back in the team. If he thinks he's ready, and I know, Sam, you're right. Every player thinks they're ready all the time. But he said, if this was Olsen, he would have me in the games. Basically,
if this was Olsen, we would be
2 points further ahead than we are right now.
Okay, and then not in the playoffs for 10 years. Or
we were in the playoffs. Right now, we're not.
For 10 years.
But
okay, Olsen in, apparently, according to DC United.
Oh, man.
Tried and true.
Look, I'm not saying Olsen in. I'm just saying, look, coaches are judged by where they're at in the table. And right now, DC United are not high in the table. It's fair for me to criticize them there. That's fine. And I acknowledge. Come on now.
I might have to turn that mic off.
Anyways,
I'll answer my own question if you guys are unwilling to.
Paul needs to start.
Yes.
Or at least get a cameo. 45 minutes. Even when Lucho was first to the team, he wasn't match fit. Ben Olsen said so. Ben Olsen said that about every player that came in. And then he slowly introduced them into games. It was 15, 20. And I thought I saw that from Losada in the beginning with Roberta and Camarni. They were getting, the garbage time, as John referred to it. But we didn't, and I think that's a product of the injuries we've seen, that you can't give the guys that you want to get minutes. You have to start them instead, or you have to completely scrap that idea and play the guys that can play 90 minutes. I would like to see more. I would love to see everyone back, obviously, but I would like to see the guys that are capable of getting some minutes, some game time, because they're better than the guys we play on the field right now. I have no doubts about that. Heinz Ike, drain that black eye. Let's get you back on the pitch.
Yeah, no, he's got to play. I mean, I don't know how that happened. That sucks that happened. He's starting on Thursday. I would bring him back. I would bring Areola back for sure. I would start Ola, and I would probably give him the full 90 if he can go it, or at least close to it, because I'm wondering if a 10% Ola Kamara isn't worse than the other options.
10% Ola Kamara scores 20 goals, or 2 goals at least, right? So if 100% Ola Kamara scores 20 goals, like I predicted last season and was terribly wrong, 10% Ola Kamara scores 2 goals. He's got one tonight, and so we've seen a little bit of the quality off the bench, right? And I agree that it's not crazy to ask for a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened with Joe. I'll be interested to hear the press conference myself and hear if Losada, it sounds like he probably didn't, but if he gave any indication as to what that injury is, how long he'll be out for. That's a tough one. I'm willing to live with Perez there again if he plays like he did tonight, but again, that's not his ideal position.
No.
I don't know what's going on with COA. It's been a long time since we've seen or heard from him. At some point, he's got to get back out there. And at this point, I'm starting to wonder, what's the skinny with Bill Hamid? We going to see him again this season? How long does it take him to recover?
Hernia surgery should be 4 to 6 weeks.
And I think we're at the end of that.
Yeah. He's been pretty emotional on his Instagram live. I don't want to read too much into social media, but yeah, Bill always wears his heart on his sleeve. I'd love to see him on the field though.
Sam, would you make any of those changes, or would you roll with the lineup we had tonight?
I am not saying that at all. I'm saying that I would love to see who's available, and I would not push anyone to be available before they are, because as you all pointed out, Losada has a very high bar for fitness, and if he pushes players in before they're ready, that just opens them up to injury. So if he is trying to prevent injuries by holding players before they're ready for what he's demanding of them, I think that that's fair.
Yeah, and I would argue he's not batting close to 1,000 in preventing injuries at the rate we're going.
I'm arguing he doesn't need to be right now. Not that he should be injuring players, but I think that if he is taking it slower with some players to get them game ready to prevent longer term injuries down the road, I'm okay with it. But clearly you all are not.
Let's award a man of the match for tonight. It was a good showing by the team tonight. I think we all at least agreed on that. What we saw tonight from the players that were available was a pretty good showing. So who do we have as man of the match?
I'll go first, and I'll preface, yes, the last 3 games were losses, and I've kind of beat DC United down with that. But they didn't look terrible in all 3 losses. I think this was the first Moses Nyman start I've ever seen in person. I thought he was really good. Lasada said he's his favorite player, maybe. I think that was a quote from the press conference. I think he was my favorite player. He doesn't do everything right, and no one on this team is doing everything right. But I'm committed to a 17-year-old that looks to play the part amongst the field. He was the best player for DC United tonight for me.
Talk about your Nagby comparison.
I saw. Look, he went in the midfield with DC United. There's right now. There's only 2 midfielders. I think Lasada changed it up during this game a little bit, but we had a 17, 18-year-old go against Darlington Nagby, who's won multiple MLS Cups with multiple teams. Clearly, he's not the supporting cast. He's a lead character in MLS, and Moses went head-to-head with him, and I thought he won some battles, which says a lot about his skills, about his mindset, about his tactical knowledge. I'm all in on Moses Nyman.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I gave Perez a shout earlier, but I have to agree with you, Joshua. I thought Nyman was impressive tonight. I thought he had more of a presence than Moreno did out there. I think, and when Felipe came in, I wasn't terribly impressed with what we saw out of Felipe either in that role. I think Nyman had a presence out there, and yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to look at him and say he doesn't belong out there, and you have to wonder longer term for this team if Nyman is the starter. And if I don't know if that means he's unseating Moreno or if he's unseating Knaus, who also curiously is unavailable after his second COVID shot a week ago. But yeah, I don't know. I was impressed with Nyman as well.
You can't see it behind the microphone, but Sam has a wry smile as we both pick man of the matches based on like future implications.
No, I just wonder why you even brought up Felipe when talking about Moses Nyman.
Well, he came on for him, yeah.
He came on for Andy Nahar, no?
He did come on for Nahar, I think.
So
okay. But they play in theory in the system we want to implement, they play a similar role.
So I think I had the question because Felipe came in and played right back and right center in the 3 center
They
backs.
did not today. Yes.
Yeah. So that was why I made that face. And honestly, he only played a half, but my man of the match is Andy Nahar. I think he played phenomenally.
Yeah, he played
I
well.
was shocked or I guess he played a little more than a half. I was shocked when Felipe came on for him in that right back 3 because I thought he was playing really well. I guess we just I don't know. I'd be interested to hear if somebody had asked Lasada that. I wish that we had been able to do the press conference.
I could see that being like a man, like you want at least one tall, big center back in there. And Nahar did like you said, I think he deserves credit for tonight. He did a great job filling in. He's a wing back typically. He filled in at center back, did really good. I don't know if we want to put him as the center defender for DC United.
He wasn't the center defender. He was one of
the
three.
but if you sub off, like instead of subbing off Nahar, you sub on Briant or sub off Briant.
I would maybe sub off a midfielder for Felipe because that's where he plays.
We didn't have the depth to do what we wanted to off the bench. So
yeah, and the first, look, if we weren't living under this cloud of fitness, I'm gonna call it, I would have assumed Nahar came off due to a minutes limitation. Due to fitness. I don't know if that's what happened because I'm working under the assumption that in order to play, you have to be 90 minutes fit under Lasada. So I don't know.
Nahar's a good shot, though. I
thought he played well.
I think it was maybe an honorable mention. Ola came on and scored a goal.
Yeah,
that's not easy to do, and that's a credit to him.
I
don't think he's going to hit 20 goals this year. I don't know.
That might guarantee that he hits 20.
Maybe. And I don't know if he's a striker for DC United going forward, but that deserves credit.
Yeah.
I think it was a right place, right time kind of thing. And to be honest, good.
Yeah.
Nobody else seemed to be
We've
in the
had
right place
lot,
at the right time.
A lot of wrong place, wrong times recently.
Yeah, I think Moses was a good shout. I think that this string of 3 home games and then immediately after the international break is when we will really be able to judge Lasada on what he thinks about his fitness and what he thinks about where these players are. Because again, it could just be, I don't want you to travel because I'm relying on you for midweek, or I don't want you to travel because you are 12 days away and I'm waiting for that because I'd rather save you and have you be a higher percentage ready for that than be a lower percentage ready here and potentially get set back a little bit.
The fun part about this digital medium is that either way, you're going to be able to dunk on us if we're wrong, or we're going to be able to dunk on you if you're wrong.
You're going to dunk on me anyway, so.
No, Sam, you'll
at least try.
You'll call your shot. I hope DC United
Despite
wins.
Sam's height, she is admittedly good at rejecting some dunks. So we'll give her that.
Yeah, I think these next 3 games are going to be super interesting.
You got a point.
I'm equally upset that we lost the last 3. I think that more so this game than the past 2, we can take a little bit away from it. And we're just going to have to see because we're still very, very early days in.
Me and John probably need to end on a Lasada. We believe in you.
It sounds like you guys are so down on him. So yes, let me throw
Sam,
you
I've
this
got
off.
him hired for the next 2 years.
That's
no matter
his
what
contract.
he does, he can
That's
stay.
not you. That's his contract.
I'm telling you, I would not even consider firing this guy
No.
until the end of next season
Why?
unless something
Why?
goes.
Let's talk about why.
Because
we believe in the
bought
process.
in the system.
Yeah,
Are you?
but we
No, because you think that the bar needs to be dropped. So that's not buying on the system.
Our assertion is that maybe there's some slight tweaks that you can make to maximize the amount of points you could get now, while still doing the dream that you're presenting to us, that Lasada has presented to us as a high pressing team that scores goals and doesn't concede more than that, and then they can score. Everyone wants that.
Well, and to me, that's the system. I am willing to separate insane fitness bars from playing that system.
No, but that system is...
I'm not saying you don't have to be fit to play that system, but when I look at Benny's system, we all know what Benny ball is, right? We never talked about fitness levels in Benny ball, right? And I don't want to see it again either. But all I'm saying is I think that's the right system. And look, if you look back at shows last summer when we were in a terrible place as a team and a podcast and everything,
please don't.
All
do that
we
to
wanted
yourself.
was a system, right? And all I wanted was a system. We have a system. I'm fine. I don't give a shit what the system is. Play the system. All I'm saying right now is I think we could be better at the system if we allowed a few more players who I think are healthy to play. But in theory,
doesn't matter what you
and probably
think.
in practice. Well, but hold on, that's not a fair take to have, right? Because
It doesn't matter what I think either.
right. Well, but that's why we do the show, right? Of course, it doesn't matter what we think.
You're
but
right. I'm sorry. That was harsh.
That's what we do, right? We don't get paid to do the show or to coach the team, but we do have opinions and we express them. We all hope DC United win every game, win all the trophies, right? And hell, if they did, we wouldn't have much to talk about, right? Because we wouldn't be able to second guess anybody.
Guys, this would be a
We'd just
weird
be
show.
You're right.
All
John,
we're doing
I'm
right
sorry.
now, no, it's
That was
okay.
harsh.
It's all good. I'm
apologize.
just saying, I think the point is, if we're talking about on a game-by-game basis, I think there were some things we could have done better that would not necessarily take our eyes off the prize, which is implementing this system and bringing DC United back to the glory days. That's the point I've been trying to make over the last couple of days.
I think the system is go for wins. And if we forfeit 3 potential points within these past 3 games for ties,
9.
I don't think anyone was going for wins against New England.
Well, but I thought you said
San
that's the system,
Jose
though, right?
and
The system
Columbus.
goes for scoring more than
You're
you can
right,
see.
but when you're at the very beginning of the season, at the very beginning of a coaching tenure, when you are playing someone who is consistently rated in MLS in Bruce Arena, and then you're flying in your only West Coast game, and then
Caleb
you're
Porter's a
coming
good
against
coach, too.
Columbus, who won the MLS Cup last year. I don't
These
think
are tough games.
of those 3 games, anyone realistically expected 3 points to happen. So I think if you are saying, can you get 1 point in each of these 3 games, or can you hold a couple players back and get them to a higher level and then all 3 points down the road?
When Joshua gives me a wry smile during a
statistically
point,
the
it's always going to
preferred
go
every
well.
single time.
I just think we're all on the same. I
think we're a lot closer
I
than
think
we think.
me and John are struggling with maybe Lasada's growing pains into this league, right? And Sam, you just highlighted that with Bruce Arena and Caleb Porter. They know how to do it in this league. And what I think me and John are basically saying is that a coach with a little bit more MLS experience probably could have gotten a couple points out of this game. And you're right, Sam. Who cares about those points if in the long term Lasada is a revelation and he finds out?
Oh yeah,
we'll
we'll never look back at these games and talk about them again. If we're above the red line at the end of the season, other than Sam dunking on us, which she should totally do later this season if that's where we are, no one's going to talk about this. But we're here now, right? So we are talking about it. I'm going to be completely candid with all y'all. I got to pee really bad, so we're going to wrap the show up here pretty quickly. I want to look at a couple things before we do that. Our friends at Loud United have their home opener on Tuesday against just keeping it 100 over here. Dude, we're just drinking all day. Loud playing home to the Red Bulls 2 on Tuesday night. We should maybe talk about going to that. We'll deal with that later. The Spirit are also opening on the 16th, and I'm doing some quick math here. That's this week, right? Next weekend, I think, against Orlando, and that's in Florida. So that kicks off their.
It's 8 days, I think.
Yeah, quick math on the air.
Yeah,
I fell into that trap earlier.
Yeah.
But that kicks off the official season.
Yes, actually counts.
Challenge Cup. Yes.
Challenge Cup is trash because we didn't win it.
Yeah. Dumb competition, whatever. And our friends at Across the Pond had a party today. Hopefully some folks went out.
Yeah.
I know they've got some cool cocktails that they're doing for DC United games, and it's been tough for some of the games that are like late in the day, but with restrictions loosening a little bit and hours going later, hopefully you guys have a chance to check out Across the Pond at some point this season and use the promo code podcast because, hell, at this point, I want to know if it works. So someone should tell us.
Also of note, I know you can get your vaccination at Audi Field coming up pretty soon, and you get to like kick a ball into a net. I don't know if that's on the field or not, but if you haven't got your vaccine, please look into that and get vaccinated so we can return to normal.
I wonder if that's a tryout to be on the first team.
I mean, they need depth right now.
Guys, I mean, seriously. We saw that, right? It's like a 5-day contract you can sign them to, just a hardship waiver type thing.
All right, everyone get vaccinated if you can. Wear your masks regardless of where it is, but it'd be super cool to do it at Audi Field.
I agree. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Spicy show, but I think we're headed in the right direction. We all can at least agree on that.
Yep.
Thanks for spending your Saturday afternoon. I can't believe this game was midday with us. We're going to do road trips again soon. We'll let you know where we're going. In the meantime,
Please join us. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to hang out with you. But hit us up on the social channels in the meantime because why not? It's been tried and true. The DC United Postgame Podcast presented by Heineken.